Hello everybody and welcome to Against the Fence. This is the place to be if you're obsessed and passionate about the UFC. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is your UFC news show with that real fan opinion. We're going to be talking about a few things tonight. Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes. We're going to talk about Peter Yan's struggles leading into the Song Yadong fight. We'll also talk about Corey Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov. We're going to talk about the UFC 300 main card being finalised. What changes would you make to it? And of course, Dustin Poirier calling out Islam Makhachev and whether or not that fight will take place. But before we get into everything, we should probably give our condolences because in the last few, like this past hour or so, we've learned that MMA legend Mark Coleman has unfortunately been rushed to hospital because he was involved in a house fire. He had to save his mum, his dad, I believe, from the fire, and apparently he passed out and was rescued. So our thoughts are going with him at the moment in time. And of course, I've not really got much news. Wasn't really planning on covering it, of course, but I should probably give it a bit of a mention off the top here. So welcome on in, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel as well. Like I said earlier, this is a UFC fan channel where fan opinions matter most. So get involved with the conversations and let's hear your thoughts. Let's head on into the side screen, shall we, and bring up our first bit of news, which was MMA Orbit made a post following UFC 299, basically expressing an interest in running it back between Curtis Blaydes and Tom Aspinall. Now, I don't know what you guys think about that. I'm kind of in favour of it in some ways, but then in others I think that perhaps maybe Tom should dig his heels into the ground and really campaign for that undisputed title fight. But he replied to this post and basically said, don't gotta ask me twice, I'm in. I guess for him, he wants to avenge his loss. His only loss in the UFC. So why wouldn't you, I guess? But at the same time, thinking about it, why has he changed his mind here? Because a few months ago, he was pretty adamant that he was going to wait out for the winner of Jones versus Stipe. But maybe he's heard something that fight might even get pushed back and delayed even more. So, and maybe he's going to have to show his hand a little bit and maybe fight someone like a Curtis Blaydes in a rematch. It'd probably be in Manchester, I'd imagine. There's been rumours about a UFC Manchester card. If Tom is willing to fight Blaydes, I think that is probably the perfect main event. Welcome on in, Aaron, who's in the house. He says, Dustin, gotta get first Gilly against Islam, bet the house. Wow. No way. He's actually said that. For real, for real. Oh, my chat's, the chat's not come up. Why have my chats not come up? It's not on this scene. It's because I'm not really used to using this scene. This is a new thing right here. There we go. That should be it. Let's try you again. No, it's on the other page. Oh, damn it. But yeah, what do you guys think about this then? Because, like I said, I think Tom should probably dig his heels in and wait out for the winner of Aspinall, Jones versus Miocic. Yay! There we go. We've got some chats now. Ash says this fight is could happen. You know. Yeah, I know. I'm worried about it. I really am. But you know, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. I'm not really too bothered. It would be nice to see Tom again, of course. I don't think we'll make the trip up to Manchester as ATF squad, I'm afraid. Might be a little bit too far. A bit up north, you see. Not really used to the north. And of course, we've got to hold the boots on the ground over here and for you guys who'd like to watch the watch along. So you guys have a priority. Moving on to my second story. So that's all I've got really for Aspinall versus Blaydes. Do let yourselves know in the chats what you think. We're going to move on to our second story, which is Petr Yan nearly pulling out of the Song Yadong fight this past weekend. His manager came out after the fight and basically said that Yan considered pulling out of his fight with Song Yadong just a week out. He says Yan suffered a groin injury a month out, which meant he'd done 0 sparring for a final month of his camp. So, having known this, you got to look back at his performance and think, wow, like, to dig deep and to get through someone like Song Yadong with a groin injury is pretty impressive, right? Who would have thought what he would have been able to do if he was 100% fit? I think he had a solid performance nonetheless. I think he just missed out on a performance of the night bonus. I think some of us felt that perhaps he could have got it. But look, all right, he gave up the first round, but he usually does give up the first round, and then he gets into his gear, comes second and third. I think he was in cruise control. He landed a lot of good strikes. He landed a few takedowns on Song. So, yeah, good display nonetheless overall. Aaron says, this makes Yan's win even more impressive, 100%. Yeah, I've got to agree with you. Here. And of course, we were talking about last night about the future matchup with him. But next, so he's going to probably take some time out. Maybe a fight with Marlon Vera makes even more sense now, timing-wise, once he gets healed up. So fingers crossed we get that fight. I think that's the best fight I want to see Petr Yan in at the moment in bantamweight. Ash says Yan looked so good in rounds 2 and 3. Yep, got to agree with that as well. So yeah, what do you reckon? Do you reckon perhaps we might be able to see Yan versus Vera towards the end of summer, perhaps? Towards the later on in the year? I think that makes a lot of sense. Fingers crossed we get there. Moving on then to my other story of this evening, which is quite a surprising one, really. Corey Sandhagen accepting the challenge from Umar Nurmagomedov. There was a bit of a back and forth here on Twitter. Umar was congratulating Petr Yan for his victory. A good working victory. August 3rd, me against Petr or me against Corey. Corey Rich replied saying, you want to call for higher opponents and choose your date. Come on, Umar. International Fight Week against me, brother. This is such a ballsy move from Corey Sandhagen, because why on earth would you call out someone like Umar, who is, some spots below you in the rankings? I mean, of course, it's a big win against a caliber of a fighter in Umar, who's got that last name Nurmagomedov. That's a massive feather in your cap, but you're risking it against the number 10th ranked guy when you could sit out and wait for a future title fight. Bearing in mind, I guess, in a way, he will be forced to fight because the Merab O'Malley fight isn't happening anytime soon, and you can't really do a Colby Covington, really, can you? I mean, there's ways about it, of course. I think he would be better off calling out someone like Henry Cejudo if you're Corey Sandhagen. All right, you give Cejudo the opportunity to get back in there in contention again, but beating someone who's a former champion and not exactly looked his best against the new breed of fighter, should we say, that would be your fight to make. And also, I guess he wouldn't mind a rematch against Petr Yan, because that fight was pretty damn close. Very entertaining, high-level stuff. I think Petr Yan definitely won that fight, but I think that Corey learned a lot in that, and I think he can come back better than ever. So against Umar then, of course, he's got to worry about the takedowns. He's got to worry about that freakish strength that these Dagestani fighters have got. Corey, you think his best chances are on the feet. He gives a lot of looks. He uses a lot of movement. Doubles up with his jab nicely. Constantly looking out for uppercuts down the middle as well. For Umar, he's got great kicks. Good head kicks as well. Which is quite surprising compared to any of the other Dagestani fighters that we've seen. He got dropped in that last fight that we saw a few weeks ago, against Beksat Al-Makan. So can Corey put someone out like Umar? I'm not too sure. I think he would have to win a decision. I'd imagine that fight would headline a fight night at some point. That would be my guess. Smash like on the video if you're just joining us, and welcome on in. It's a fan channel where fan opinions matter most. We go live for aftermath shows, news shows, fan cams, fighter Q&As, the lot. Putting on all the different fan content for you guys who are very passionate about the sport of mixed martial arts. So get involved. And of course, hit a comment as well if you're tuning in the next day. But yeah, that's my take on that. Prediction wise, obviously I'm a Corey Sandhagen fan. I've been compared to him quite often on the channel, so I'll be rooting for Corey should that fight get made. Bit of a nervous one though, I think. You'd imagine that Umar will be favourite in that fight because he's of course undefeated. But you know, don't count out Corey Sandhagen. I'd say I think you could easily whack a couple of quid on him if you're a bit of a betting man. So there's my take on that. Move on then to our another story here. We'll talk about the UFC 300 finalised card. Take a good look at it. What do you rate it out of 10? Obviously, the UFC 299 got a lot of high ratings on our social feeds when we put it out. But when you take a look at it, yes, top to bottom, it looks pretty good. Maybe the main and co-main aren't exactly the best. The rest of them aren't too bad. But the one thing that stands out here is, why is Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage on the main card? It doesn't really make any sense. Now, in the post-fight press conference of UFC 299, Dana said that they had finalised the card the night before, and it took them quite a while to figure things out. Why on earth have you got Nickel versus Brundage on the main card? Now, I know that Bo Nickel is a bit of a hype train, but is he really that popular? There are other names on this card that you can easily put in that spot. I actually would rather see Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison on the main card instead. I'm not even joking with you. I would. And look, it's quite surprising because the UFC in the past have really helped Holly Holm out a lot. They've given her a lot of favours, I feel. And yeah, okay, she's 40 years old. You've got Kayla Harrison, who's coming in from the PFL. She's, dominated over there. Although I think, she lost her last fight, didn't she? But which could be, I guess, a reason why that fight's on the prelims. But is it because maybe they put her on the prelims because they don't want to make it out that the PFL have got stars? Perhaps, they want to kind of downgrade her a little bit in a way. I'd rather see Sadiq Youssef versus Diego Lopez in that spot. That fight is going to be absolute havoc and should really headline the prelims at best. You got Yuri versus Rakic. Yuri's a former champion. Rakic has been out for a while. Okay, but look, Yuri's a bit of a fan favourite. He deserves to be on that main card. You got Cater versus Sterling. Sterling's a former champ, but okay, Sterling rubs people up the wrong way. So, and you look at Sterling's last few fights, haven't they all been headliners? And now he's on a prelim. That's pretty mad to me. So, it's a bit of a weird one. I'm glad that Oliveira versus Sarukian's on the main card because that definitely deserves the spot. That's title contender worthy, but we're going to get into that in just a little bit more in just a sec. Aaron says Nickel being the featured bout is a complete joke to the sport. Swap him and Figgy and Garbrandt. So Aaron wants to see Figueiredo versus Garbrandt in there, which is kicking off the night, right? Is it kicking off the night? No. Turner versus Moicano should be kicking things off, I think. But still, that is wild. But fair opinion. I like that shout, Aaron. Fair play. But yeah, I don't think there's much else to take from this article. Pereira versus Jamal Hill. Okay, doesn't really blow your hair back. Doesn't give you an absolute stonker. it's not the headlining fight that we were expecting. I think we kind of went through that in a previous Aftermath, to be honest. Rush move from the UFC. It is what it is. So yeah, smash like on the video, guys. Let your thoughts be known in the chats and in the comments section. Let's pop that chat down and get into our final headline here, which is Dustin Poirier calling for a title fight against Islam Makhachev. Could it happen? I kind of think it's possible that it will. For several factors here, which you can kind of see the bit of the back and forth between the two. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. I've got it on my monitor here. You've got Dustin Poirier, who tweeted out Islam in June, which Islam replied with a bit of a handshake, sword emojis there. So sounds like he's in. And then what was also quite interesting in that Twitter feed was somebody called Raffle Sports commented saying towards Islam, saying, "Brother, Justin just KO'd him. Why not fight the man that KO'd him, or wait and face the winner of Arman versus Charles? Both deserve it more than Dustin," which is a very good point. And of course, a lot of fans are thinking the same thing. Which Islam replied, "Want to fight, brother? No more wait." So look, timing hasn't really worked out much for Islam. The UFC clearly wanted to try and get him on that UFC 300 card against Leon Edwards. However, Ramadan is in the way during that period. So you're expecting Islam to return in the summer. And with Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway happening at UFC 300, Gaethje versus Islam, or even the winner of Arman Sarukian versus Oliveira, becomes a little bit thin. And the UFC needs to continue to book matchups, of course. But do we think that Gaethje should have waited out for Islam? I guess is the question here. In a way, I think I do. But at the same time, Gaethje's probably promised more money because he's on UFC 300. So you got to look at things from a financial aspect as well. Michael Bisping said in his show that he believes the winner of Oliveira and Arman should fight Justin Gaethje next, which is a good way of looking at things, I guess, because timing-wise, those fights could play out quite nicely and work out well. But, you know, Ali Abdelaziz tried setting it up this past weekend between Dustin Poirier and Makhachev, so maybe the UFC might just go down that road. And he also tweeted out saying, "Dustin Poirier took a huge risk tonight and came out on top and looked amazing. Dustin versus Makhachev in June, especially since everyone else has fights. If the UFC is good with this, then Islam would be game." Now, also, Poirier's got a bit of a fan base as well, right? So that is a reason why the UFC could very well go down this route. And, you know, I think it could very well work out. I just don't think it's going to be a massive seller. In a way, it makes you also ask the question of, can you really put Makhachev versus Poirier as a co-main event to another fight? Maybe a heavyweight fight, but at the same time, Islam's probably quite a big earner now, so if you couldn't really put him on the same card as a John Jones, definitely probably not on the same card as Conor McGregor, like we was talking about last night in the Aftermath show. Kind of expecting those two to come back in the summertime, probably Conor in June and then Jones in July, which makes an action-packed summer. But look, like I said, you know, the UFC might have to force some epic fights for the summer. You know, whether it be Poirier versus O'Malley, whether it be Poirier versus Islam, because that's the only real fight to make. So Ash says, yeah, to go back to the main card. Yeah, I can believe Bo is on main card. Yeah, really? I mean, he was on main cards previous. He says it's made that Dustin is trying for a title shot off one win. I mean, it is quite. I think you meant to say it's mad. It is mad, to be fair. But I guess you got to do what you got to do. We're in this period now where fighters are just shooting their shot and seeing what happens. I'm just trying to think now of occasions where that's actually happened and paid off. But who knows? It's the UFC, you know. They're also got some big cards to put on in the summer because they're wanting to go to different countries. Saudi Arabia, they promised them that they're going to put on a big card. You'd imagine they're going to return to Australia probably next February. They want to put on a big card there. They're also negotiating new deals for broadcasting. That's another thing behind the scenes as well. I think the likely option is that they're going to renew their contract with ESPN. You've also got Netflix that are now broadcasting live sports or going into it. But I don't think the UFC are going to risk partnering with Netflix. Now, of course, Netflix, billions of people have got Netflix in their household and they've got accounts. But how can you be confident that they're going to deliver when it comes to streaming their events? Because they've not done it before. So I think it'll be a little while before we see the UFC on Netflix live broadcast, I'm afraid. Unless Netflix decide to chuck a ton of money at the UFC. That's the only way I can see that getting done. Aaron says Cheeto got a title shot off one win. That is also true. Yeah, I mean, part of that was because O'Malley wanted to avenge his loss as well, I think. Ash says, yeah, true, bro, but I think there was a story to it, and Marlon already beat O'Malley, so yeah, you're right with that one. Yeah. Whereas I guess for Poirier, there's a story because he lost against Khabib, and Islam's Khabib's best mate. I don't know. But from a fan's perspective, we're kind of expecting more or less the same, aren't we? In some ways. But then I've also spoken on the channel before about Islam having more confidence in his striking than Khabib, which therefore opens up a bit more of a risk. So who knows? Aaron says that's true. UFC wanted O'Malley to avenge it, and it was perfect timing for it. Ash says, can you hear the story, JK? Get Sai to tell the story, please. I haven't heard it. Oh, what? Where? Man beats boy, and boy avenges his loss by beating the man. Something like that. I mean, we heard it enough times this past weekend. It kind of makes me sick a little bit inside. But yeah, what do you guys reckon? Get your comments in. Get your chats in. Do you think Dustin Poirier will fight for the belt against Islam Makhachev next? I would say I sit 60% confidence in that as it stands. 60 could very well lean to 70 depending on the upcoming bouts that get announced. I guess we should also go back and talk about I forgot to do so. The fact that Jalen Turner versus Renato Moicano got added to UFC 300. Sorry, I thought before I wrap things up. Very interesting fight. I think we probably could have predicted that one. It's going to be an explosive one on the feet. Moicano, I think, has got to take the back and get the rear naked choke if he wants to pull off a win, because Jalen Turner's a difficult customer on the feet. Exciting fight, though. Very stoked for it. Let's head on then back then to the main section there. So make sure you smash the like on the video, hit the notifications bell if you haven't done so already, and hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. This weekend, we have got a live watch along, as always. A bit of an earlier time. It'll be 11 p.m. UK time for the UFC Fight Night card. Tuivasa versus Tybura, two heavyweights slugging it down. We've also got on the prelims our boy Mike Davis versus Nathan Levy. That's going to be a barn burner of a fight. So make sure you are around for that. I don't think we're going to go live for the prelims. We might spontaneously go live. We'll see. But yeah, 6 fights though. That's the thing. 6 fights on the main card. So yeah, make sure you're there. Yes, JK Legend. Yes, I'm all in for it. Says Aaron. Great output, JK. Thank you, sir. Let's go, Mike. Indeed. Let's go, Mikey Davis. Fingers crossed. So we'll see you there this weekend for the live watch along. Have a good rest of your week. Stay safe. Get some good night's sleep. And we'll speak soon, guys. Ciao for now.